Good evening, young people of the Eastern region and ministers. Welcome to our live show on gender-based violence. I think it's a very relevant topic. I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed and spoken about. And tonight with me on the panel, I've got Deacon Showen Nell from the Calvindale. Then we've got Bishop Werner von Schaefer. Maybe he can give us some background on that surname. And then obviously our specialist for tonight is Sister Valerie Kariem. So tonight we've got this whole talk on gender-based violence. You are aware of what's happening in our society, in our country, and in the world. There's just the sudden scourge of violence. And so tonight we're going to unpack everything. Please follow us on the comments. Post your comments for us, and we'll see how we can respond to them. So without any further ado, Bishop, can you please open this meeting with a prayer?
Good evening, everyone. Let us pray. Dear loving and merciful and kind Father, we come with much thankfulness before you for this wonderful day that you have granted us, a day closer to the coming of your Son, Jesus Christ, a day, Father, where you granted us strength to do our natural things, but also we are thankful to be able to gather in this forum. And Father, we plead of you to bless this gathering, bless the presenters, bless the technical side, bless also the viewers, Father, so that we can all experience you. And Father, also we are mindful of those that go through difficult times, those that are unemployed, Father, those that have illnesses, those that have lost a loved one, and especially those, Father, that are also influenced negatively, Father, by this gender-based violence. Let all of them experience your closeness and still trust you that, Father, you are still in control. Father, bless us now further. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Remarks maybe on GBV for us?
Yes, Brent, in preparation for this, I was thinking of what our Apostle Nene said on Father's Day. In his opening statement, he wished us well. And then he said, we have this responsibility to teach our children, especially our sons, to protect our women, to respect our women. And I'm thinking of what, this vicious cycle of violence can be broken by one person. If you look at it negatively, if one father does not pray, then his children won't pray, and the future generation will not pray. Let's look at it positively. If the father teaches the children and set the example of treating women well and with love and with kindness, surely the generation will follow suit. So I take this opportunity to dare all men, all fathers, all young brothers, to spread this pandemic again of love, of kindness, of obedience, towards those who we love, those that surround us, and especially our women and our children. Thank you, Brent.
So thank you so much, Bishop. And really, that's something profound. When the apostles started that divine service, I do recall it. Where fathers need to speak to their sons. So thank you so much for that, Bishop. We really appreciate the time and just the comments. It really helps, and it really sets the tone for tonight. So once again, Bishop, thank you very much. Blessed evening further to you.
Thank you. Same to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, good stuff.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. So, good evening, panel. So tonight we've got this hot topic show, and I know you are very passionate about this topic. Auntie Val, you are passionate. Maybe what I do quickly before we go, Valerie Kariem was born and bred in Grahamstown, so shout out to our brothers and sisters in Grahamstown. She lives in Port Elizabeth since she's got married. She is a qualified social worker for the last 43 years. She worked for the Department of Social Development, Child Welfare, South Africa, as area manager, as well as national project manager for Zivikele training, where she specialized in gender based violence in all 9 provinces of South Africa. All right, that's interesting. She's currently the director of her own training company, Voice of the Voiceless Consultancy, which specializes in victim empowerment training programs. Thank you so much, Auntie Valerie, for the time. And we're just really looking forward to engage you. I think the first question that we're going to ask is, what is gender-based violence? What is this GBV? Also, the abbreviation GBV. What is gender-based violence, Auntie Val?
Okay. Thank you, Brent, and good evening to all the viewers and all the ministers and young people. On the 17th of June, when our president spoke to us, I just quickly want to read what he said. He said, "It is with the heaviest of hearts that I stand before the women and girls of South Africa this evening to talk about another pandemic that is raging in our country." So gender-based violence is a huge, big problem in South Africa. And before I go to the definition, I just want to give you a few stats that since April 2020, can you imagine that 21,000 cases of domestic violence was reported, according to our Minister of Police, Minister Becky Cele, and 14,777 suspects were charged, and they were actually the sentences were actually life sentences that they were given. Now, when we talk about gender-based violence, we are talking about violence that is committed against a person because he is a male, or he is a boy, or she is a female, or a girl. And when that violence is committed, it is to result in physical harm to the victim, physical, psychological, and even it's like the other word that I want to use is emotional pain that the victims go through. There are other means to that, like there's economic abuse too. But gender-based violence is violence against someone because of he is male or female, or a boy or a girl. I hope that is clear.
So it's not physical only, and it's that mental as well. Is that right?
That's mentally and definitely it's not physical, because people think if you walk with a blue eye, that is gender-based violence. It is not. It is the emotional abuse by calling people names and putting them down. That is the abuse that has got such an effect on a person, and you cannot see it with your eye.
Okay, good. Thank you. I want to bring Sherwin in here. If Sherwin is there, please, Sherwin, quickly, GBV, there's just this escalation of gender-based violence in the country. What's happening?
Well, in my opinion, and research has showed us that we live in a male-dominant society, Brent. And,
Mm.
gender-based violence can be described as unequal power relationships, where the one gender has more power than the other one in the relationship. So yeah, that's basically how I perceive gender-based violence.
Okay, brilliant.
If I can
Yes.
just come in there. When he speaks about it is absolute, it is so, because it is all about power and control. And when he says the
Okay.
one has more power than the other one, it boils down to our patriarchy in our society, where men got more
Yeah.
power than women, even in the workplace too.
Mm.
No, very interesting. Very interesting. So what we're going to do now is let's go look at the stats quickly. I put a presentation together. I hope we can see it. Let's see there. There we go. There. Okay. And go. Right. And Devel, let's quickly speak about the stats that's coming up here. There we go. There's the one, this is quite interesting. 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking from an intimate partner. That's quite interesting. And then obviously 1 in 6 men will be sexually abused. That's quite interesting. Talk us through that stats on Devel.
Um, that states is a reflection of the fact that, you know what, I read something the other day that says women, they say 1 in 3 women now will go through domestic violence or sexual assault or rape in this country. They will, but they will never get a job. So the possibility of a girl even to be raped or sexually assaulted is very, very high in South Africa. And I mean, you can see that 1 in 6 men will go through sexual violence in South Africa. So it is more concentrated on women than men, and even girls.
Okay. Okay. Shaun, maybe I show you the next one. Let's see quickly. There you go. That's quite interesting. That statistic there. 42,289 report rapes in 1 year. Um, that's interesting. Shaun, is it? That's shocking, isn't it?
Really shocking, Brent. Really shocking. I think one of the most common forms of gender-based violence is intimate partner violence, and that comes as a result of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse, all in one. And given the stats that you've just shown us now, we can admit that there's a problem in our country when it comes to gender-based violence, and I think Valerie will agree here, but South Africa is actually the rape capital of the world. So
Yeah.
there's a whole those stats are spot on when it comes to that.
Interesting.
If
Yes,
I can
Antivel?
just bring what Sherwin is saying, South Africa, gender-based violence is a global problem. It is not just a South African problem. It's a global problem. But South Africa's figures, the stats are of the highest in the world. I mean, that is why it is called the rape capital of the world. If I think of the last recent few weeks in the northern areas in Port Elizabeth, how many women were raped and killed. It is shocking. So we definitely need to do something about this. And especially you young people, if you are in a relationship where there is gender-based violence, we need to speak out.
Just to add to that also, Antival, sometimes as much as it is more common in different societies in South Africa, I think none of the different areas are spared in terms of gender-based violence. It happens all over the world, and in South Africa, it's obviously associated with social and economic problems and that history of violence. I think that's a big problem, that cycle of
Yeah,
violence that we've. But there's a lot of hidden things in between that as well. You find it in the workplace and various other places as well. So yeah, I think you're spot on there, Tivel.
yeah. Yeah, no, it is, as I said, it's a global problem. I spoke to Brent the other day and I explained to him what happens in Pakistan and countries like Uganda, where women, if they don't wear their traditional way, the husbands they take acid and they throw it into the women's faces. And I sent some of the pictures to Brent, but I don't think he was very keen on showing it to you because it is horrible the way the women their faces are burned and it looks terrible. They are disfigured.
Sure. No, 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 no. Okay, so just if we can bring up quickly that PowerPoint there, we have tremendous responsibility. So much depends on us. If not me, who? If not now, when? It is our job here and now to do our best and to make a difference. So I just thought I wanted to share that with you.
Yeah.
All right. So what we'll do now, we've got a young person that is into poetry, and Amir Lawrence in Sydenham congregation. He will render or read a poem that he wrote, and I think it is actually brilliant. When I first read it, I thought it was a rat thing, but no, it's not. So what I will do is I will quickly switch chairs because he's sitting here right next to me, and I'll just have him quickly read this poem. I present to you Amir Lawrence.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Amir.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here this evening. Okay, my dad asked me for a poem that I wrote, and this is what I had a while back. I told him I don't mind reading it. Women, such an astonishing design, created by a superior mind, natural warriors with limitless beauty. They do not deserve this cruelty. Understand it's not all men, but a line needs to be drawn. If it wasn't for women, we wouldn't be born. There is no cure for the pain they endure. That's why they deserve all our respect. They are a treasure we need to protect. We often consider them weak, when in fact they're stronger, because in a battle of suffering, they'd last much longer. As men, we would honestly be lost without them. So think very carefully before committing evil deeds. Rather consider her and her needs. Let's not create a future where women constantly fear men. Instead, let's hold their hands and stand up with them. They were made to stand beside us, not below, because they're just as important, and that's something all men should know. Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much, son. Thank you, Amir, for that poem. What we'll do, we'll post it on our Facebook page for you to further read it. I think it was actually brilliant. Thank you so much, Auntie Val. Let's continue with some of these questions that I've got here for you.
Yeah.
What are the forms of GBV? I believe there are forms of GBV. What are they shortly?
Okay. They are, well, the first one is domestic violence. That is one of the biggest problems in South Africa. As I mentioned previously, 21,000 cases of domestic violence was reported now during the lockdown. So that is domestic violence. Now, what is domestic violence? Domestic violence is when you are in a domestic relationship. And I explained this to Brent the other day, and he was quite shocked. I said to him, Brent, if you are in a hostel at university with your roommate, You are staying under the same roof, so you are in a domestic relationship. And if that roommate stalks you or terrorizes you or beats you or whatever, you can get a protection order against that person, according to the Domestic Violence Act 116 of 1998. The other form of gender based violence is sexual assault. Sexual assault is more where women are coerced into prostitution or they are forced into human trafficking or to do sexual acts. So that is sexual assault. And then the other one that I need to speak about also is hate crimes. Hate crimes is crimes because you hate. Let's speak about the LGBTIQ community, the lesbians and the gays, and the bisexual and the intersex and the queer people. If in some communities, if they don't want or they don't like gay people, they will kill you or they will rape the gay girl, the lesbian, to correct her behavior. So that will be a hate crime because it is not accepted in that family or the community. The persons are killed because they belong to the LGBTIQ community. The other one forms of gender-based violence is human trafficking. Human trafficking is where people, and especially young girls and boys, the young people, they come to the parents and they tell you, oh, I got this nice job on a boat or on a cruise ship, and I'm going to New York and I'm going to work there in a bank. And people, young people, let me warn you, when you arrive in New York, you will be, they will tell you that we paid, I don't know how many dollars or whatever, and you will be forced into prostitution on the streets of New York. When I was in New York in 2013, I met a lady that was trafficked from Indonesia. She was promised a job in a bank in New York, and when she arrived there, it was something else. That poor lady was forced into prostitution. She was forced to sleep on the boat that takes passengers and tourists to Staten Island at the Statue of Liberty. She was forced to sleep on that boat, but she escaped, and today she is not a victim of human trafficking anymore. She is a survivor, and she's got her own organization where she empowers survivors of human trafficking. So that, in short, are some of the forms of gender-based violence. I cannot go into all of them because the time will not allow me.
Thank you so much, Andivel. Sherwood, let's quickly jump to the comments. Let's see what we can do with the comments there. Can you see some of the comments there, Sherwood?
Yeah. I see. Just some people saying good evening. Glenda Alexander, Angus Norky has a question. He's asking: is gender-based violence only about physical abuse? Nikki Stegman says, in the sight of God, that He created all men and women equally. Society, however, has created this pyramid that men are created due to the role they play in the workplace. And he goes on. Thank you for that comment there, Nikki Stegman. And then Anthea Thompson says young people need to be aware that if their girl or boyfriend sits on their heads and controls them, that's also a form of gender-based violence. Daniel Brinkies and Anthony Hermanus also says good evening there. So there's some comments coming through, and we will note your comments and respond to it. I think at Tivel, there's a question here from Angus Doki. He's
Yeah.
asking, is gender-based violence only about physical abuse?
I think we spoke about that previously. It is not about physical abuse. There is sexual abuse, and the sexual abuse is mainly rape and even marital rape. Do you know that way? If even though you are married and you say no to your husband for sex, it is no. And if he forces himself onto that is rape. So it is not just physical, it is emotional, it is sexually, and it is psychologically too. Let me just explain. When it comes to emotional abuse, it is very, very difficult to prove that in court. So but I don't want to jump the gun now. But when the case goes to court, there should be a report from a psychologist regarding the emotional abuse as evidence. Clear?
I think thank you very much for that. I think here's the big one. I've had this numerous times. Why do victims stay in abusive relationships? Maybe Shawan, you go first, and Antival, if you don't mind, you go second. Why do people stay? Because we find them always staying. Why?
Okay, there's various explanations. Perhaps I'll just touch on one, Brent. This is a very common one that happens in our communities. It's okay for a man to be the breadwinner. I think Nikki Stegman mentioned that. It's accepted in society. We create these norms that we accept, and the woman then becomes dependent, on the finances. So there's a sense of financial security, and as a result of that, women have, or well, in their opinion, they have no option other than to stay in that relationship because of that financial security. That's just one. I think that Devel can touch on some of the others.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Okay, Antival.
As a print on that one, I just wanted to state it. I see it as financial dependency, because that woman is so dependent on that guy or husband or boyfriend or whatever, that she will stay. And she becomes dependent. Maybe he refuses for her to go and get employment. So he makes sure that she is dependent on him. The other thing is when we talk about why they stay, sometimes people stay because of the children. Where am I going with my children? And women, Scott, if they are in an abusive relationship, their self-esteem is so low. They become depressed. They just haven't got enough guts to get up and to empower themselves and to get out of that relationship, to break the cycle. And here, Brent, I think we can talk about the cycle of violence here. Because when you are in a domestic abusive relationship, there is a cycle that continues. And the first one is tension building, where the woman knows, oh, it's end of the month, he got paid, and he's drunk, and the way he comes into the driveway, soos ons in Afrikaans met skrouwwiele, then she knows the tension is building up, and tonight I'm going to get my hiding. Then after the tension building, it goes into battering. He starts hitting her, and sometimes there's threats that I am going to leave you, and I'm going to the welfare, and I'm going to tell the welfare they must take the children, and you are not good enough. You are not a good enough mother. And after that, after the battering, we go into the honeymoon phase, where he tells her, "Oh, sorry, the next day, man, I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing." And he buys her flowers and he takes her to a restaurant. And even new babies are born after in the honeymoon phase. And after the honeymoon phase, if she thinks everything is fine now, and so the cycle continues again. The next end of the month, the next Friday, the next Sasape, the same thing happens until the cycle is broken. And she takes a stand and she leaves that house.
Brent, I just
Thank
wanted to mention something there. Coming back to the comment
Yes.
section, and I'm quite impressed with this comment coming from Garth van Heerden. Um, Garth van Heerden says, or he's asking the question there, what can or should we as men do when we see this a case of GBV? I think the question is up on the screen now. I think Antival perhaps.
What you as men should do, yeah. Okay, when you see there's, according to the Domestic Violence Act, if you've got any material interest in that person, the victim, if you are a friend, a neighbor, a teacher, a priest, a youth leader, a young people, I don't know what you call them now, but I'm old school youth leaders. If you are a Sunday school teacher, if you are a teacher at a school or a nurse or a doctor or anybody with material interest in that person, then you should lay a charge against the person. Sometimes people say, maybe I must go and speak to the guy. But you can maybe go and speak to him, but will it help to break the cycle? And the charge can be to open a case or to apply for a protection order. And as the name says, it is not an interdict, people, asseblief. If people tell me, I apply, lady, ek het aansoek gedoen vir 'n interdict, dan kan ek skree. Because it is not an interdict. It is a beskermingsbevel in Afrikaans and a protection order in English. So if you apply for the protection order, it is not to hurt or to the husband or to show him that I'll show you what I can do, but it is to protect the victim in this case. That is why it is called a protection order.
Okay, that's interesting. Uh, it's just a pity we don't have a judge in here or a persecutor, that can take us into that. But I think I don't know, could they see that cycle? I think it was so nice. I wanted to actually show that cycle. If you just allow me to share the screen quickly there, and if we can just see what Auntie Valerie was talking about in terms of that cycle of violence. There we go. There we go. All right. So maybe just to run through it again there. The phase one is the tension builder, anger, blaming, arguing. The phase two, the acute battering, that's beating. And this one year, the honeymoon stage, where the batterer asks forgiveness. He makes empty promises. It won't happen again. Does that sound familiar? And then obviously it starts again. So I thought that was brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, Auntie Valerie. So let us go to the next question, because this is, I think it's getting exciting here. A very good question there, Shawan. Should GBV form part of the school curriculum? Auntie Val, what do you think?
Absolutely. You know what? I was sitting here and preparing myself, and I just thought that we actually need to start with preschool children. Even if we tell them stories or little games or whatever, but to install this into boys from a very early age. And as the bishop said, and as Apostle Nene recently said, it starts at home. There it starts. And it should be part of the school curriculum, especially for, as I said, preschool children, primary school, high school, and even at varsity. They should have more workshops on gender-based violence, because at varsity level and in colleges, that is where all this is taking place to gender-based violence. The lady that was killed last year from UCT, I mean, that was, it's bad. And what about the other students at Stellenbosch and also the others at UCT? And even I believe at Rhodes and at all the universities, gender-based violence is a problem.
Devel, is
Yeah,
we've now identified what it is, all right,
yeah.
and we're gonna go now to the fact that it's happened now, all right, and the question that we pose there: how do victims of domestic violence access a protection order? Let's jump to that question. So there is a situation. How do the victims access the protection order?
Okay. The first response when there is an act of domestic violence, let me just explain this. The first service provider that will respond is in most cases is the police. Am I right? So SAPs will
Yes.
respond. They will respond. But sometimes there is, I spoke to someone at the victim support center. That is something that I must also just tell the young people about. At all the police stations in the metro, Nelson Mandela Metro, where we stay, and Sarah Bartman District Municipality, there are victim support centers at the police stations. And that victim support center is managed by caregivers. It is an NPO that is funded by the Department of Social Development. Now, when there's an act of domestic violence, let's say over a weekend, the first respondent will be the police. If the caregivers from the victim support center is off duty, the police will call them and they will assist this lady or male or boy or girl. If I say assist, they maybe apply for a protection order. At some police stations, you can do that over the weekend, but in most cases, you apply for a protection order at the magistrate court. But let us say this lady's life is in danger now. The Domestic Violence Act calls it undue, she will suffer undue hardship. Then the caregiver at the Victim Support Center will call the shelters. There are shelters in Port Elizabeth and in Utenhage, and I don't know, maybe in the rural areas there are no shelters. But if there's no shelter, they need to call a family member or a friend to take this woman to that family member so that she can be safe until Monday, when she can go and apply at the magistrate's court for a protection order. Now, if you apply for a protection order, you apply on the application form where you fill in everything that happens to you. He assaulted you, he raped you, he threatened you with a gun. You need to say everything in that application. And if you want maintenance, you can also mention that in your application. After that, if you apply on the Monday, there will be a date set aside after 10 days where you will return to court, and they call that on the return date. You go to court and the magistrate will then make a final protection order. But if the magistrate feels that this lady's life is in danger, as I said just now, he will make an interim, a tussentydse bevel, an interim protection order just to protect her until she and the husband comes to court on the return date. If the husband comes to court on the return date, he will make a final protection order. And a protection order is for lifelong, people. And you can apply for a protection order anywhere in South Africa according to the Domestic Violence Act. So I hope I explained that, because I am not a lawyer or a magistrate, but that is just from my experiences with victims.
Okay, thank you, Auntie Val. I think we're going to go over to the next one here. It is, what is the procedure when somebody's raped? So we've touched on that, but before we jump onto that, we've got a little video that we would like to play. And should be very interesting, and please, we welcome your comments on the video. Let's just go there and there. Right, got it. There we go. It's that one bit. And if I do this.
Fight back. Fight back, they said. Do they not see the bruises on my wrists, the smudged lipstick on my lips, the skin and blood beneath my nails, the diaper that suddenly looks so rough? I fought so much that even after he was done, I still fought. I fought my nose for still smelling him. I fought my mind, who still made art galleries of his face and skin. I fought my lips from speaking out the shredded story in my recycling bin. Because a broken story in the court will never win. Because the court protects him before they ever protect her. Because of my lack of evidence, they say, allegedly. Allegedly, he raped me. Allegedly, he killed me is another way of decently saying he so-called raped me. Because I am lying until evidence is proven. Because 1 out of 10 women lie about being raped, while 9 out of 10 are actually telling the truth. So, he is innocent until the semen in my body, the bruises on my body, and the sand burying my body proves him guilty. Basically, my lack of evidence doesn't validate my story enough to say he raped me, he molested me, he threatened me, he abused me, and when you finally believe me, he got free with bail money that's less than the cost my parents paid to bury me. I'll say it again. He raped me, he molested me, he threatened me, he abused me, and when you finally believe me, he already got free with bail money that's less than the cost my parents paid to bury me.
So much that was such a powerful video, that we must assure, our young people they're not alone. There are resources that they can go to. So, then the question is, what procedure does someone follow that has been raped?
Okay, when someone is raped, it is very important, first of all, to preserve the evidence. Now, when I say that, sometimes people are raped and they go to the friend or to their mother and they tell them, I was raped. And the mother or the friend will say, please, go and shower. If you shower, you are washing away the evidence. So first of all, when a person is raped, the first respondent will be, and the service provider will be, the first response will be SAPS in many cases. In some cases, when the victim was assaulted, she will be, the police will take her with a sexual offences kit. It's like a little box with all the swabs and everything in, and they will take her to the hospital where they will attend to the wounds on her body or whatever. And a forensic nurse or a doctor will collect the forensic evidence from the female or the male or the boy or the girl's body, because that the lady or the boy or the girl or the male's body becomes a crime scene. So they collect all the evidence from her body, and when they've got all the evidence, it is put into the sexual offences kit, and it is sent to Pretoria for the pathologist and people go through it to check on the DNA of the person who assaulted her or who raped her, the rapists. The other thing is, when they go to the hospital, they must also immediately get post-exposure prophylaxis treatment. So we call it PEP treatment. And prophylaxis is just a word for prevention. So what are they going to prevent with this treatment? They are going to prevent the pregnancy. They give her the pill to prevent a pregnancy, and then the morning after pill, and they prevent HIV/AIDS. So if they will give her antiretroviral drugs for 28 days, and they will also try and prevent sexually transmitted infections, STIs. So the post-exposure prophylaxis is to prevent all these infections. The other thing is, when someone is raped, we must also please take note of this. When that person makes a statement at a police station, that statement must be taken in a victim-friendly facility, which is in most cases, as I said, the victim support center where there are caregivers. The police will go with the victim to the victim support center, and they will take the statement in a victim-friendly facility. And we must not allow the police to take statements in the charge office, as we call it. Because what about the person's dignity? What about confidentiality? And the other thing is, we must also understand that they've got rights. They've got the right to get information regarding this process that she is going through now. She must be treated with dignity. She must be treated with respect. And that is things that we as friends and family must be aware of. So if the statement is taken at the police station and you were right now, so they tell you, okay, this Kosa speaking officer will speak to you. Then if you are Afrikaans speaking or any other language, Changan or whatever, and you don't understand Kosa, you don't understand Afrikaans, they need to take the statement in your mother tongue. And if the female is not comfortable with a male because she was violated now by a male, she has got the right to ask for a female police officer to attend to a case. Okay, thank you. I think if I go on with this right thing, we will speak all night. But that is that.
No, thank you.
Sorry, Prince. Wait, one very, very
Yes.
important thing that I did not mention is when it comes to children. Children they will go through the same procedure as the post-exposure prophylaxis treatments and all that, and they will also go through the forensic medical examination. But in the case of children, the parents can ask for the doctor to do it under anesthetic. Because remember now, it's a child. This child does not know why am I violated again by this man with a white coat, the doctor. So in most cases, when it comes to children, they do it under anesthetic. And when a child makes a statement after a rape or sexual assault or whatever, the statement must be taken, as I said, in the language the child understands, and it must be age appropriate. Children in certain areas will not speak about a penis and a vagina. They will speak about the oometsy about the tukkie stolly, and he put it in my Lucy or my Lucy or whatever. And if that child uses that language, it must be stated in the language the child spoke in the statement. And that is one of the things that result in many cases being thrown out of court because of the lack of information when it comes to statements.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. Look, this is becoming a nice hot topic, and unfortunately, we've ran out of time. But maybe, Shawan, I don't know, I see a question there, Antivel. I don't know if you can take this, but let's
Okay.
try it. And Shawan, Anthony Hermanus, can you see that question there?
Yeah. Anthony Armando
Okay,
says,
just
please explain to the viewers what steps can follow when they don't get assistance from the police in a domestic violence situation.
What steps can be followed? Okay, the steps that can be followed. You can first of all you go to the, as we call it, the station commander, and you go and report that police. And if the station commander does not attend to it, you've got a right to take it up with the provincial police services, and further up until they call it the independent police directorate. You can actually complain there. But I am not a police officer, so I am not going to go into that. But you can complain and take it up. What our people must learn not to accept bad behavior from government officials, because they are civil servants and they are there to serve you in a dignified way. And that is also the case when it comes to social workers, to NPOs, anybody who's rendering a service should speak to a client respectfully and in a dignified way.
thank you so much. Shawan, maybe final comments from you?
Yeah, I just perhaps wanted to address something quickly, and this was with regards to what can be done. I think there was a question earlier on, and what can be done. I think it's a collective responsibility to all of us. I think
Mhm.
not to remain silent is important, and one way to approach is, this there's a study that I've done recently, which says there's two ways, but now broadly speaking, to respond to gender-based violence, and the one is the response, and then the other one is the prevention. But I think we should start focusing more on the prevention. If you look in our communities, we hear about these things and we choose sometimes to not speak about it. So I'm just appealing to everybody out there, to make it your responsibility. The other thing is that if we had an opportunity to speak to government, I would really ask them to make the sex offenders register public. That's something we need to work on,
Yeah.
and pressurize government into doing something like that, because we need to know who these perpetrators are. And there's a lot of young people, young girls that are walking around the community that have been abused sexually by their uncles, and they still see them at family functions,
Mm.
or this kind of thing. So we need to stop this from happening. So if we even if we get that whisper in our ear that something has happened, we must take it seriously. We don't take these things lightly, because I think there's a statement that says prevention is better than cure. So instead of working on the response, let's try and work on the prevention. And that's my final thoughts and my parting thoughts. Thank you, Brent.
Shut down. And Val, maybe just a final comment.
My final comment will be when I really feel that when it comes to gender-based violence, as I explained, SEPS is one of the role players, but I want to bring the church in here, and I really feel that the faith-based organizations like the church must definitely do more when it comes to gender-based violence, and that is by training ministers and training youth leaders and Sunday school teachers, and even have more talks about gender-based violence with parents and with the whole congregation, because our elderly people are also abused. It is not just young people or middle age. Elderly people are also raped. They are abused by family members that abuses their pensions, and some of them don't even eat sometimes. So I really feel that the church should really engage with in talks and training sessions when it comes to gender-based violence. And when it comes to prevention, as Sherwin said, we need to do more awareness raising campaigns to address gender-based violence and to make our communities and our congregations and our youth and our adults and our elderly, everybody must be aware of their rights when it comes to gender-based violence. We must break the cycle. We must uh, not be silent or look away. Break the silence and don't look away. Become involved, and we can make a difference. And we can actually the victims can become survivors if we become more involved in their lives.
No, thank you very much, Adivel. I think that was very insightful. Thank you for the time and for the insight, Adivel. I suppose we had a lot of questions. We couldn't cover them all, but thank you very much. Maybe my final remarks is this. Remember, young people, when the Singapore conducted the young people weekend service, we had this virtual walk against gender-based violence. Remember the Apostle's word that he used, where he said, "All are equal. God created man and woman equal." I think that was very, very profound. And then obviously remembering Galatians 3, where the Bible reading, where the sister said, neither Jew nor Gentile, that also the underlining tone there was also that we are all equal. And so the church has done its bit, and I think yes, we can do more, and we will try to do that. I'm busy with the book of Psalms, quite interesting. I'm looking at Psalm 8 quickly. Just something, and here the psalmist asks, what are humans? What are people that you should think about them? Mere mortals, that you should take care of them. Now look at what it says here. Yet you made them only a little lower than God. You crowned them with glory and with honor. Now it's interesting, them, men and women, is crowned with glory and honor. And all I want to say is to the perpetrators and those people, that the life that has been given, it's sacred. All of our lives is sacred, and once you take that away, you are overstepping, the sacredness of God. So please, we implore you. And one of the things that stands out in that youth service, just to jump back, is where the apostle related the story where he read to his grandson about Snow White. And obviously you remember the story of Snow White, where she asks, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And obviously he said, the mirror answered, Snow White is, and his grandson said, no, Pa, my mother is the fairest. And the apostle in that said, that attitude of that young boy needs to be in all of our boys. And when they grow up, when it goes over to their wives, that they can still see the beauty, of the wife. I think that's very, very important. So, so in essence, please, everybody, there is this escalation of gender-based violence, and I think what is missing is the element of love. That is missing. That has been taken out. The selfishness, the self-righteousness, and we need to bring that back in. And once we bring the love of Christ back, then we will not have these evil that is happening. So once again, Auntie Val, show, and thank you so much for tonight and this topic that we had. It was really awesome to talk about this. And obviously what we will do also, we will post later on, we will post some contact numbers on our Facebook page for you to if you want to refer to one of these organizations, feel free to give them a call. We will post that up. So that is the end of the show. All I want to do now is for the young people just to run some through announcements that will happen now in our area. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen, and let's just run through those. There we go. All right, let's see quickly those announcements that we need to go through there. Okay, so that is the contact numbers that we will post later on our Facebook page for you as reference. Let's quickly run through the announcements. Please, guys, Friendship Divine Service coming up on Sunday. Invite your friends, family, colleagues to be part of the Friendship Day broadcast Divine Service. That will be by our District Apostle, and you can obviously see that on all the platforms, Facebook Live, YouTube, NAC TV, TSTV 263, Cape TV. All right. And then obviously, we've got a Bible study coming up. This should be a very interesting Bible study. The walls of Jericho came tumbling down. You need to hear this Bible study. Okay. That is on the 7th of September, Monday at 7 o'clock. And virtual choir. All right. That should be very interesting. Our virtual choir every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. I repeat on Saturday 7:30. And last but not least, this is the big one, Thanksgiving Day. Should be very interesting. We're looking forward for this. What are you thankful for? What am I thankful for? What are we thankful for despite this pandemic? So support your local congregation there in the Thanksgiving preparation. So thank you very much, Auntie Val. Thank you so much, Shawan. We really appreciate the time. And for all those who posted a comment, we really appreciate all the comments. We will read them, and we will respond to you where possible. Thank you very much, and have a blessed evening further and a blessed weekend. Blessed Divine Service on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Val.
Bye-bye.